It was just after the lunch rush at the Sunrise Diner, and the air still hummed with the faint smell of coffee and grilled onions. In a corner booth, a young woman sat perfectly still. Her name was Clara. She didn't have a menu in front of her. She didn't look at her phone. She simply stared at her own hands, folded neatly on the worn Formica table. Her clothes were clean but faded, and a single, small suitcase was tucked beside her in the booth. Anyone looking might have thought she was waiting for someone, but the truth was, Clara was waiting for a sign, for a courage she couldn't quite find. Across the diner, a waitress named Maya moved with a tired grace. She'd been on her feet since 5 a.m., refilling endless cups of coffee for the regulars, smiling through stiff feet and a mind preoccupied with her own worries. A stack of unpaid medical bills sat on her kitchen counter at home, a constant low hum of anxiety beneath her cheerful service. She wiped down the counter for the third time, her eyes drifting to the young woman in the corner booth. Clara had been there for nearly an hour and hadn't ordered a thing, not a coffee, not a glass of water. Maya felt a flicker of concern, quickly followed by a practical thought. Maybe she was just loitering. Maybe she should ask her to order or leave. But something in the woman's posture, a deep, quiet defeat, stopped her. Finally, Clara looked up. Her eyes met Maya's across the quiet diner. She raised a hesitant hand. Maya put down her cloth and walked over, her practiced smile in place. "What can I get for you, honey?" she asked, her voice warm despite her fatigue. Clara's voice was barely a whisper, dry and cracked. "Could I please just have a glass of water?" "Just water? Sure thing. You waiting for someone? Want to see a menu?" Maya asked gently. Clara shook her head quickly, a flush of embarrassment coloring her pale cheeks. "No, thank you. Just the water, please." Maya nodded, coming right up. She turned to fetch the water, that flicker of concern growing into a quiet worry. It wasn't the lack of an order. It was the look in Clara's eyes, a hollow, fearful look Maya recognized. She'd seen it in her own mirror recently. It was the look of someone who had run out of options. At the drink station, Maya filled a tall glass with ice and cold water. As she turned to carry it back, she saw Clara fumbling with something small and white under the table. A napkin? Clara's hands were shaking. She glanced around furtively, then quickly slipped the white square under the edge of the water glass coaster before pulling her hands back into her lap, as if burned. Maya's steps slowed. Her heart gave a little thud. Was this some kind of scam? A complaint? Maya approached the booth, her smile a little tighter now. "Here you go," Maya said, setting the glass down carefully. Her eyes instantly went to the coaster. The corner of a folded paper napkin peeked out from beneath it. Clara wouldn't meet her gaze. She just stared at the water as if it were a lifeline. "Thank you," Clara whispered, her fingers trembling as she reached for the glass. Maya hesitated. The rule was simple. You serve the customer, you don't pry. But another rule, a deeper one, written on the heart, insisted. "Are you sure you're okay, sweetie? You look like you could use a bit more than water." Tears welled up instantly in Clara's eyes. She pressed her lips together, a desperate attempt to hold them back, and shook her head again, unable to speak. Maya's gaze drifted back to the hidden note. She made a decision. "I'll give you a moment," she said softly, and walked away, but not back behind the counter. She busied herself at a nearby empty booth, slowly wiping an already clean table, her back to Clara, but her awareness entirely focused on that corner. A moment later, she heard the soft rustle of movement. She glanced over her shoulder. Clara was standing up, leaving the full glass of water untouched. She picked up her small suitcase, gave one last lost look around the diner, and walked out the door, turning left and disappearing down the street. Maya stood frozen for a second, then hurried over to the booth. Her hand went to the coaster. She lifted it. Underneath was not a napkin, but a piece of crisp, folded white paper. With a pounding heart, she unfolded it.
The message inside was written in a neat, elegant script, but the words were a desperate cry.
To whoever finds this, I am sorry. I have nowhere to go and no one left. I came to this city for a fresh start, but my bag was stolen with all my money and ID. I've been walking for 2 days. I am so tired and so scared. I don't want to cause trouble, but I am hungry. If you can spare any food, even leftovers, I'm sitting at the bus stop across the street. My name is Clara. Thank you for your kindness. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She looked out the window across the busy street. There, on the bench of the closed-down bus stop, sat Clara, her small suitcase at her feet, her shoulders hunched against the world. She wasn't begging. She wasn't holding a sign. She was just sitting there, invisible to the rushing world, hoping a secret note would find a merciful heart. Tears sprang to Maya's eyes. All her own worries, the bills, the fatigue, suddenly shrank, put into stark perspective by this raw, humble plea. Clara hadn't demanded. She hadn't even asked aloud. In her shame and fear, she had chosen a whisper on a page, trusting in the basic goodness of a stranger. Maya didn't hesitate. She crumpled the note and shoved it in her apron pocket. "Frank," she called out to the cook in the kitchen window, "I need a sunrise special on the double. Eggs, pancakes, bacon, toast, the works, and add a side of hash browns and a large orange juice." Frank, a burly man with a kind face, poked his head out. "Big order for this time of day. Someone finally got hungry?" "It's an emergency," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. She wasn't just making a plate. She was answering a prayer written on a napkin. As Frank got to work, Maya pulled out her own phone. She texted her sister, a social worker. "Hey, need quick advice. Someone here, young woman, homeless, no ID, bag stolen. What's the best shelter? Who do I call?" Then she went to the diner's lost and found box and pulled out a clean, slightly worn sweater someone had left months ago. She grabbed a new bottled water, a banana, and a granola bar from the counter stock. Within minutes, a steaming plate of food was ready, enough to feed someone who hadn't eaten in days. Maya arranged everything on a tray, the heaping plate, the juice, the extra snacks, the sweater. She didn't walk. She marched with purpose out of the diner, ignoring the curious looks from the few remaining customers. She waited for the traffic light to change, the warm tray in her hands. Clara saw her coming. The young woman's eyes went wide with confusion, then shock, then a flood of utter disbelief as Maya set the tray down on the bench beside her. "Clara," Maya said gently, sitting down without being asked. Clara stared at the food, then at Maya, then back at the food. Her composure shattered. A sob broke from her lips, and she covered her face with her hands. You read the note," she wept, her voice muffled. "I read the note," Maya said softly, placing a hand on her trembling shoulder. "And you're not alone anymore, okay? First, you eat. This is for you, all of it." Between ragged breaths and whispered thank yous, Clara began to eat, her manners forgotten in the face of basic, profound hunger. Maya sat with her in silence, a guardian angel in a waitress uniform. She told Clara about the local women's shelter her sister had recommended, a safe place that could help her get a new ID and connect her with resources. She handed her the sweater, the snacks, and a $20 bill from her own tips. "This isn't much, but it's for the bus or anything else you need right now." Clara finished eating, the color slowly returning to her face. She looked at Maya, her eyes pools of stunned gratitude. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why would you do all this for me?" Maya thought of the hidden note, the quiet plea, the courage it took to ask in that way. She squeezed Clara's hand. "Because you asked for a glass of water, and everyone deserves to be seen." Later, after walking Clara to the shelter's downtown office and ensuring she was safe in their care, Maya walked back to the diner. The afternoon sun was warm on her face. She reached into her apron pocket and felt the crumpled note. She didn't throw it away. She smoothed it out and tucked it into her wallet. It wasn't a receipt. It was a receipt of a different kind, a reminder that in the middle of her own struggles, she had been given the profound gift of being someone's answer. That night, when Maya looked at her stack of bills, the anxiety felt a little less sharp. The numbers were the same, but her heart was different. It was fuller. She had witnessed the fragile thread of human need and had been strong enough to catch it. Clara's fresh start began not with a job or a home, but with a secret note and a heaping plate of kindness. And Maya's own burden felt lighter because she learned that sometimes the very act of lifting someone else up is what gives you the strength you didn't know you had. Sometimes the loudest cries for help are the ones written in silence, and the greatest miracles begin with something as simple as a glass of water and a heart willing to see what's hidden beneath the surface. Share this story if it reminded you that hope often whispers.